The rain hammered against my window like it was trying to break in, matching the storm raging inside me. I stood there, staring out into the black night, my hands shaking as I held that old photo of us, me, my husband Robert, and our son Mark when he was just a boy. I'm 68 now, my hair more grey than brown, my body tired from years of giving everything I had. Behind me, Mark paced the room, his voice cutting through the air sharp as a blade. "I'll send you to that nursing home one way or another, and gladly," he said, his words hitting me like a slap. I turned slowly, looking into his eyes, feeling a mix of heartbreak and something deeper, something angry. But he had no idea about the secrets I'd kept buried all these years, the ones that could turn his world upside down. It all goes back to my childhood in a small Ohio town where life was simple but hard. My dad worked the factory line, coming home exhausted every night with calloused hands and a quiet strength that I admired. Mum sewed clothes for the neighbours, her fingers nimble despite the long hours, always finding time to bake bread or tell me stories about her own youth. I learned early on to be resilient, helping with the chores before school, milking cows at dawn, and dreaming under the stars about becoming a teacher, shaping young minds with knowledge and kindness. But life doesn't always follow dreams. At 20, I met Robert at a local dance hall. He was tall, with a charming smile and stories of adventures from his sales trips. We danced all night, and before I knew it, we were married in a small church ceremony with wildflowers from the field. Soon after, Mark arrived, this tiny crying bundle that filled my heart with a love so fierce it scared me. Robert's job kept him travelling, selling machinery across states, so I was left to raise Mark mostly on my own. I took on part-time work as a cashier, then as a waitress, all while keeping the house running smooth. I'd bake cookies for Mark's school events, sit in the bleachers cheering at his Little League games, my voice hoarse from yelling encouragement. He was my world, my reason to push through the exhaustion, the late nights when Robert was gone and the bed felt too big. As Mark grew into a curious boy, Robert's absences stretched longer. I'd wait by the phone for his calls, but they came less often. Rumours trickled in from friends, whispers of Robert seen with other women in distant towns. My stomach would twist, but when he came home, he'd deny it all with that easy grin, pulling me close and promising it was just talk. I believed him, or maybe I just wanted to for Mark's sake. I couldn't bear to break up our family, so I swallowed the pain, buried it deep like a seed in fertile soil, hoping it wouldn't sprout. Instead, I poured my energy into Mark, helping with math homework at the kitchen table, sewing costumes for his school plays, saving every spare dime in a jar for his future. He was smart, ambitious, always top of his class. I remember the pride swelling in my chest when he graduated high school, valedictorian, and headed off to college on scholarships I'd helped him apply for. I'd drive up on weekends, bringing homemade casseroles and laundry detergent, listening to his stories of dorm life and new friends. It felt like all my sacrifices were paying off. But then Robert died suddenly, a heart attack on one of his trips. The call came in the middle of the night, shattering my world. The funeral was a haze of black dresses and sympathetic hugs, but afterward, as I sorted through his things, the real nightmare began. In the attic, hidden behind old suitcases, I found a box that changed everything. Letters, intimate and loving, addressed to another woman. Photographs of Robert with a young girl who had his eyes, his smile, so much like Mark. He had a secret family, a daughter named Sarah, living just a state away. He'd been supporting them with money siphoned from our accounts, explaining the mysterious withdrawals I'd questioned but never pursued. The debt he left was crushing. Hidden loans, credit cards maxed out to fund his double life. I cried for days, alone in that empty house, but I kept it from Mark. He was building his career as a lawyer in Chicago, marrying Lisa, starting a family. Why burden him with his father's sins? I sold off furniture, jewellery, anything of value, and moved to a cramped apartment. I took cleaning jobs, scrubbing floors until my knees ached, just to keep the lights on. Mark sent checks now and then, but his visits grew rare, his calls shorter. Lisa never warmed to me. She saw my old-fashioned ways as outdated, my stories as boring. The grandkids loved me, though. Their giggles during my visits were like sunshine. I'd babysit, read them bedtime tales, bake pies from scratch. But gradually the invitations stopped. "We're busy," Mark would say. I'd knit scarves, mail birthday cards with a few dollars tucked inside, but the responses faded. Loneliness wrapped around me like a cold blanket, but I endured, drawing on that inner strength from my farm girl days. Then came Mark's call, his voice all business. "Mum, it's time we talked about your living situation." He arrived in his expensive suit, eyes detached. He pointed out my forgetfulness, a misplaced remote, a stumbled step. "A nursing home is the answer," he insisted. I argued, insisted I was independent, but he waved it away. "It's for your safety, and honestly, it's easier on us." The sting was sharp. As he walked out, tossing that line about sending me gladly, something inside me snapped. That night, I pulled out the box again, the letters yellowed with age. Sarah had grown up well. I'd checked online anonymously, seen her graduate, marry. Now, with Mark's betrayal fresh, those secrets felt like ammunition. The rain kept pouring, echoing my tears. I grabbed the phone, dialed my lawyer from years ago. "I need your advice on some old matters," I whispered. We talked late, piecing together a plan. Mark thought I was frail, but he didn't know the fire I'd banked for decades. I'd reveal it all, the affairs, the daughter, the embezzlement Robert hid by skimming from his company. Evidence that could shake Mark's perfect life. Morning came with a new resolve. I brewed coffee, watered my plants, but my mind was sharp, scheming. Mark called, pressuring me with details. "The place has activities," he said. I pretended weakness, buying time. I scanned the documents, found Sarah's email, sent a cautious message. "I was married to your father." Her reply came fast, full of questions. My pulse raced. This could be the turning point. Weeks passed in a blur. Mark grew impatient, visiting with Lisa to show me glossy brochures. "Look at the gardens," she said brightly. I nodded, but inside rage simmered. I recalled skipping my own dreams for this family, only to be discarded. Alone at night, I sifted through more from the box. Robert's secret will splitting assets. I'd forged a new one for Mark's benefit, but now, time to undo that. I met Sarah in a quiet cafe, my nerves jangling. She was warm, with Robert's kind eyes. We talked for hours. Tears, laughter, truths shared. "You have a brother," I told her softly. Her shock turned to curiosity, then connection. This was the beginning. Mark had no clue what was coming. The storm I'd unleash. Sarah and I started meeting regularly, building our bond in hidden spots like back corner booths in diners or shaded park benches where no one would recognise us. She's 42, a nurse with a steady hand and a compassionate heart, qualities that reminded me of what I could have been if life hadn't pulled me elsewhere. "Why did you keep this hidden for so long?" she asked one afternoon, her voice gentle as she sipped her tea. I explained it all, the fear of shattering Mark's world, the worry that revealing Robert's betrayal would taint his memories, and maybe even his future. But Mark's recent cruelty had changed everything. It was like a match to dry tinder, igniting the anger I'd suppressed. Together, we spread out the documents on the table, the love letters, the bank transfers, the proof of embezzlement. Sarah's eyes widened as she read. "This could ruin reputations even now," she whispered, tracing the numbers that showed Robert stealing thousands over years. I nodded. It was my leverage, a sharp tool forged from pain to cut through Mark's indifference. Meanwhile, Mark ramped up his efforts to force me out. He hired a home evaluator, this stern woman in a pantsuit who invaded my apartment like she owned it, noting every little thing, a loose rug, a high shelf, as a hazard. Her report landed in my mailbox a week later, declaring me at risk for independent living. Mark came over, waving it like a flag of victory. "See, Mum, experts say it's time. Sign the forms or I'll have to take it to court for guardianship." His threat hung in the sea, air heavy and real, but I kept my face neutral, pouring us coffee with steady hands. What he didn't know was that I'd started recording our conversations on a small voice recorder tucked in my sweater pocket. His sharp tones, his impatient sighs, all captured as evidence of his heartlessness. Nights were the toughest, when the apartment felt too quiet and memories flooded in. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, remembering Mark as a sick child, how I'd sit by his bed through fevers, wiping his brow and singing soft lullabies until dawn, or the time he broke his arm climbing that old oak tree. I held his hand in the emergency room, whispering it would be okay, even as my own heart pounded with fear. Those moments of pure love, and now this, treated like a burden to be shipped off. The hurt fueled my determination. I called the lawyer again, updating him on the secret will. We could contest the forgery, bring everything to light, he suggested, but I wanted more than legal wins. I wanted Mark to feel the sting of betrayal, to understand what it was like to have your world upended by someone you trusted. Sarah became my rock, sharing her own side of the story, growing up with a father who appeared sporadically, bringing gifts, but never staying long enough to build real memories. "The money helped, but it wasn't love," she said, her voice cracking. I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. We were two women hurt by the same man, now united. We drafted letters to my grandkids, simple explanations of the family secrets, sealed and ready to mail if things escalated. I even set up a burner email to monitor Mark's social media, seeing posts of his fancy dinners and vacations while I counted pennies for groceries. As the nursing home deadline loomed closer, Mark's frustration boiled over. He showed up unannounced one evening with boxes, declaring, "We're packing tonight." Lisa tagged along, her smile too tight as she sorted my china. "This will make room for new things," she said. I watched them, my chest tight, but said nothing. After they left with a few loads, I called my journalist friend from back when I volunteered at the library. "I have a story that needs telling," I said, attaching scanned files anonymously. The potential for an exposé on a long-ago embezzlement tied to a prominent lawyer's family was dangling there, ready to drop. To stall, I played up my frailty around Mark, fumbling with keys, pretending to forget names, making him think I was weakening. It worked. He eased off a bit, confident in his win, but in secret I was stronger than ever. Morning walks around the block, yoga from a book I'd borrowed, daily crosswords to keep my mind razor sharp. Sarah brought me salads, vitamins, and most importantly, encouragement. "You're doing this for all of us," she said. Digging deeper into Robert's papers, I found more damning evidence: insurance policies naming Sarah, funds I'd redirected to Mark. Guilt gnawed at me, but resolve won out. Sarah showed me photos from her childhood, parallels to Mark's so striking it hurt. "We could have known each other," she mused. I agreed, picturing a different life. One afternoon, Mark surprised me with a doctor for a quick check. "Mental eval," he announced. I answered every question perfectly, recalling dates and details with ease. The doctor nodded approvingly. "She's quite capable." Mark's face turned red as he stormed out, muttering curses. I allowed myself a small smile. My plan was working piece by piece. The walls of my apartment seemed to echo with past laughter, but now they held my secrets. Sarah invited me to dinner with her family, her husband kind, her kids curious and huggy. It felt like coming home, a warmth Mark had denied me. Mark's calls turned desperate, mixing threats with pleas. "Don't drag this out," I responded calmly, dropping hints. "What if your father had secrets?" He dismissed it, but I heard the uncertainty creep in. With Sarah, we refined our strategy, the big reveal at a family meeting. My nerves were frayed, but excitement bubbled. Mark had no idea of the alliance forming against his selfishness. I journaled every night, pouring out the pain and plans. One dream of Robert smirking woke me angry, but empowered. Sarah called me a hero. For the first time, I believed it. Mark's next visit was imminent. The trap was set, ready to spring. The day I decided to pull the trigger on my plan felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, wind whipping around me, heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. I'd locked away the evidence in a safe deposit box at the bank, giving Sarah a key too, just in case. Mornings became ritualistic, sipping coffee while reviewing notes, rehearsing the words I'd say to Mark, imagining his face when the truth hit. He kept texting relentlessly. "The moving van is booked for next week. Pack what you want to keep." I replied with short, compliant messages, but inside I was building my counterattack, brick by brick. Sarah was my constant support, our meetings now filled with detailed plotting. We'd walk through the neighbourhood park, leaves crunching underfoot, discussing every angle. "He needs to see the full extent of what Dad did," she urged, her nurse's practicality shining through. I opened up more than ever, sharing the lonely nights after Robert's trips, how I'd cry into my pillow while Mark slept soundly in the next room. The sacrifices, the vacations I skipped, the double shifts I worked, all for a family that now saw me as disposable. Sarah listened, her eyes filling with understanding, and we'd hug at the end, two women forging strength from shared wounds. Mark organised what he called a farewell family visit, bringing Lisa and the grandkids over one last time. The kids rushed in, wrapping their small arms around me, their innocence breaking my heart. "Grandma, why do you have to leave?" the youngest asked, her eyes big and teary. Mark shushed her quickly. "It's for the best, sweetie." I pushed down the lump in my throat and focused on making memories, baking apple pie together, the kitchen filled with cinnamon scents and their giggles. We played board games on the living room floor, me letting them win, cherishing every smile. But when the kids were distracted, Mark cornered me with the admission forms. "Sign them now, Mum. Let's get this over with." I hesitated, my pen hovering, then signed a duplicate set I'd printed myself, identical but legally worthless. He folded them away, satisfied, none the wiser. That night, after they left, the apartment felt emptier than ever. I called Sarah, my voice steady. "It's time for phase 1. We met the journalist at a neutral coffee shop, handing over carefully selected documents. The love letters, photos of Sarah as a child, initial bank records hinting at the embezzlement. "Publish when I give the word," I instructed. The story had potential to go big, a tale of deception spanning decades, linked to a rising lawyer. I started packing superficially, boxing books and clothes, but I planted clues deliberately. A photo of Sarah peeking from a half-open drawer, a fragment of a letter on the table with just enough words to intrigue. If Mark snooped, he'd find breadcrumbs leading straight to the truth. The evening before the supposed move, Mark called in a rage. "The doctor said you're mentally sound. Why are you fighting this?" My response was calm, measured. "Because I still have a say in my life, son." He hung up abruptly, but I could hear the frustration cracking his voice. Sarah helped me shuttle a few essentials to the small studio apartment I'd rented secretly under her name. It was basic: a bed, a kitchenette, a window overlooking a quiet street, but it represented freedom. "You're going to be okay here until this blows over," she said, helping me unpack. I hugged her tight, gratitude overwhelming me. The first leak hit online, a small blog post titled "Salesman's Secret Family Unearthed." Mark must have seen it because his call came frantic. "Mum, there's some article about Dad having another kid. Is this a joke?" I feigned surprise. "Maybe it's time you learned the whole story." He showed up at my door within the hour, hair dishevelled, tie loose. "Explain this, now." I sat him down, revealing pieces slowly. The affairs, Sarah's existence, showing him photos. His face paled, denial turning to shock. This can't be real. But the evidence was irrefutable, staring back at him. Lisa blew up my phone next, accusing me of fabricating lies to sabotage them. You'll regret this. But I stayed silent. The proof spoke louder than any words. Mark left in a daze, muttering about needing time. From my window I watched him drive away, a small sense of victory warming me. The media picked up steam. Local news ran segments on hidden families and long-buried secrets. Interview requests poured in, but I declined them all, letting the story unfold on its own terms. Mark's professional world took hits. Clients called with concerns, whispers of family ethics issues circulated in his firm. He texted begging, "Please, Mom, make this stop. It's destroying everything." We met in a public park, neutral ground, autumn wind swirling leaves around us. "You were ready to abandon me without a second thought," I said quietly, meeting his eyes. "Now you know what it feels like to have your foundation shaken." Tears welled in his eyes. "I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" But I wasn't ready yet. Forgiveness had to be earned, not given freely. Sarah started joining our meetings, facilitating the awkward introductions. "We're connected by blood," she told him softly. Initial tension gave way to tentative conversations, shared memories of Robert's quirks, similarities in their laughs. We had family dinners, blending the old with the new, kids from both sides playing together. But the embezzlement investigation loomed larger now, authorities sniffing around old records, suspense built daily. What would come next? I felt empowered, my voice finally resonating. We pored over more evidence together, preparing defences. Mark learned about Sarah's life, the parallels to his own, fostering a reluctant bond. I settled into the new apartment, decorating with photos of my expanding family. Journaling became therapeutic, spilling out decades of suppressed emotions. The grandkids visited secretly, their joy untainted by the drama. Mark began apologising in actions, bringing groceries, fixing a leaky faucet. Lisa grew distant, their marriage straining under the scandal's weight. Sarah's family provided contrast, warm, inclusive gatherings. The plan evolved from revenge to something healing, but the tension remained. When would the full truth explode? I dropped more hints to Mark about additional documents. His worry deepened, calls more frequent. A blended family picnic sealed early progress, laughter under the sun, bonds forming. The journalist held the embezzlement bombshell, waiting for my signal. Mark requested a private talk. "Help me make this right." I listened, heart softening slightly. I revealed the original will next. His shock renewed, tears flowing. Tentative hugs followed, the storm peaking but hinting at calm. Mark's carefully constructed life began crumbling faster than I could have imagined as the scandal gained traction. Headlines in local papers screamed, "Prominent lawyer's father implicated in decades-old embezzlement cover-up." His office became a war zone of emergency meetings, partners eyeing him suspiciously, some even pulling away to protect their own reputations. Lisa's arguments with him echoed through their home. I heard about them secondhand from the grandkids, who confided in whispered phone calls. "Mum and Dad fight a lot now," the eldest said, breaking my heart even as it validated my actions. Mark showed up at my new apartment more often, looking haggard, pleading for guidance. "How do I fix this, Mum? It's all falling apart." I sat him down each time, offering tough love. "Start by owning your mistakes, son. You can't erase the hurt with words alone." The first full family gathering at Sarah's house was a powder keg of emotions. I arrived early to help set up, the smell of roasting chicken filling the air, a comforting normalcy amid the chaos. Mark pulled up hesitant, Lisa notably absent. Introductions were stiff, handshakes instead of hugs, but the kids broke the ice, chasing each other around the backyard, their laughter a balm. Over dinner, stories emerged tentatively. Sarah sharing funny anecdotes about Robert's rare visits. Mark admitting similarities in their stubborn streaks, tears mixed with chuckles, the evening ending on a note of cautious optimism, a fragile bridge built over years of secrets. But the legal storm intensified. Authorities issued subpoenas for old financial records, Mark's name tangling in the web peripherally as Robert's heir. Stress etched deep lines on his face. He aged years in weeks. "This could cost me my license," he confessed one night over coffee. That's when I revealed the hidden trust fund I'd set up from Robert's redirected insurance policies, a modest sum, but enough to cover legal fees. "Use it wisely," I said, handing him the details. Gratitude shone in his eyes, a crack in his armour. We fought the emerging lawsuit as a unit, hiring lawyers to dissect the evidence, proving Robert's actions were solitary, no family involvement. Late nights poring over papers brought us closer. Sarah's analytical mind spotting discrepancies, Mark's legal expertise guiding strategy. Victory came in a courtroom dismissal. The judge ruling time had eroded any claims. Relief washed over us like a wave, solidifying our newfound alliance. Mark backed his apologies with real change, helping me furnish the apartment, inviting me to the kids' school events, listening without interruption to my stories. Sarah and Mark discovered shared interests, long hikes in the woods, debating politics over beer. Family outings became routine, picnics, zoo trips, creating new memories to overlay the old pains. I blossomed in this phase, joining a local book club where women shared similar tales of endurance, volunteering at a community centre to tutor kids. Anonymously, I posted snippets of my story online, inspiring responses from strangers. "You're giving me hope." It felt like reclaiming my voice. Lisa filed for divorce shortly after, citing the scandal as the final straw. Mark was devastated, showing up at my door with red eyes. "I lost sight of what mattered," he admitted. I comforted him, but reminded him gently, strength comes from facing consequences. He leaned on me and Sarah, our support network growing stronger. He relocated to a house closer to mine, a humble downgrade from his previous luxury, symbolizing his humility. Rebuilding his practice slowly, he focused on pro bono cases for the elderly, a quiet atonement. My days filled with purpose, mentoring young mothers at the centre, starting a memoir draft on my old laptop. The tragedy that started with Mark's cruel words transformed into a triumph of resilience and reconnection. We celebrated small victories, blended birthdays with cakes and songs, holidays where tables groaned under food from both families' recipes. Pain lingered in quiet moments, but hope overshadowed it. Mark told me one evening, "I love you, Mom, more than ever." It felt genuine, earned. Sarah became like a daughter, our trips to farmers' markets a weekly joy. The book idea solidified, chapters flowing from my experiences. Life had turned a corner, my strength on full display for all to see. As months turned into a gentle rhythm, the changes in our family deepened, rooting like old trees after a storm. Mark became the son I'd always hoped for, attentive, thoughtful, showing up weekly for dinners where we'd talk for hours, him listening to my farm stories without glancing at his phone. He'd help with errands, fixing that squeaky door, or setting up my new tablet, his apologies evolving into actions that rebuilt trust brick by brick. Sarah's family enveloped me completely. Her kids' drawings covered my fridge, their weekend visits filled with board games and backyard adventures, calling me Gran Eve with squeals of delight. Yet echoes of the past surfaced unexpectedly. One crisp morning, a letter arrived from Robert's old company, demanding repayment for the embezzled funds, threatening liens on any remaining assets. Mark panicked when I showed him, pacing my living room. "This could wipe us out." I placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "We've faced worse together, remember?" Using the trust fund remnants, we hired counsel, gathering affidavits and old records to argue statute of limitations. The process bonded us further. Late-night strategy sessions with Sarah chiming in via video call, her practical insights cutting through the legalese. In the end, the suit was dropped, a final exorcism of Robert's ghosts. Holidays became blended masterpieces, Thanksgiving tables laden with my traditional stuffing alongside Sarah's modern twists, laughter drowning out any lingering shadows. Christmas saw trees twinkling in both homes, gifts exchanged with genuine warmth, the grandkids' excitement knitting us tighter. Inspired by it all, I finished my book, Veiled Strength, A Mother's Silent Battles. A small publisher picked it up after I submitted anonymously. Reviews poured in praising its raw honesty, women emailing me their own stories of endurance. It hit bestseller lists in niche categories, surprising us all. I started speaking at women's groups and senior centres, my voice steady as I shared, silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Timing your truth can change everything. Applause followed, empowering me as much as them. Mark found love again, remarrying a kind-hearted teacher named Emily who embraced our complicated family. I walked him down the aisle in a simple ceremony, tears of joy mixing with pride. Sarah's family expanded too, a new baby girl named Evelyn Rose in my honour. Holding her tiny form, I felt life's cycle renew, fresh hope in her gurgles. Dreams long deferred came alive. Sarah and I travelled to Europe, wandering Paris streets, tasting croissants, marvelling at the Eiffel Tower. "This is for all the years we lost," she said. I nodded, camera in hand, capturing moments I'd only read about. Nights brought reflection, journaling by lamplight, gratitude lists growing longer. The betrayal that sparked this all now seemed a distant catalyst for growth. Grandkids' sleepovers became tradition, popcorn and movies under blankets. Their questions about the past answered gently, lessons in forgiveness woven in. Mark helped tend my small garden, our talks deepening into philosophy, life's fragilities, importance of kindness. Lisa, post-divorce, became cordial, co-parenting smoothly for the kids' sake. Book tours took me to nearby cities, signing copies, connecting with readers whose hugs felt like validation. My strength, once hidden, now shared widely, inspiring a ripple effect among women facing similar trials. Life felt full, no longer alone in the quiet. The nursing home threat. A faded memory laughed off in family anecdotes. Little miracles abounded. Unexpected calls from old friends, sunsets watched with loved ones. The simple joy of a home-cooked meal shared. My home now thrummed with the vibrant chaos of a true family. Grandkids' toys scattered across the floor, lively debates over dinner, shared meals where recipes from both sides of our blended lineage mingled on the table. Mark hugged me often, his embraces warm and sincere. "Thank you for giving me second chances, Mum. I don't deserve it." I smiled, cupping his face. We all deserve grace, but remember, family is earned every day through actions, not just words. Sarah echoed the sentiment during our weekly coffee chats. We're unbreakable now, a force together. Her words rang true. Our bond had transformed from tentative allies to inseparable confidants, planning future adventures like road trips to national parks. My legacy spread beyond our circle. Book signings drew crowds. Podcasts invited me to discuss resilience, inspiring countless women to voice their own truths. "Your story saved me," one email read, bringing tears. I gardened with renewed vigour, planting flowers that bloomed bright, symbolising rebirth. Painting classes at the community centre unleashed creativity I'd buried, canvases filling my walls with colour. The nursing home threat became a family joke, referenced in toasts, to Mom, who turned abandonment into abundance. We laughed, the pain transmuted into triumph. Miracles unfolded daily. Reconciliations with distant relatives drawn by the book's buzz. New births like little Evelyn Rose growing strong, enduring love that weathered storms. I was alone no more, my life's arc completing from quiet tragedy to resounding triumph. Looking back, I harboured no regrets. The secrets I'd unleashed had freed us all. The grandkids begged for stories of the big reveal, and I'd tell them gently, emphasising forgiveness over revenge. Mark beamed with pride at my successes, promoting the book to his colleagues, his own life stabilised with Emily's support. Sarah and I planned more travels, Italy next, pasta and history awaiting. Dreams once deferred were now reality, my strength eternal, a beacon for others. Hope pierced every darkness, little wins accumulating into a fulfilled existence. Family, earned and cherished, stood as my greatest achievement. As chapters closed, new ones began, pages turning with promise.